What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to InvestQ. And today we got some interesting news because, as we do know, earnings season for BigBear.ai is coming up, and they were originally stated to have their earnings report released on August 10th. But interesting developments is we have seen that they've moved up their Q2 earnings report to July 30th, which is happening next week, 7 days from today. Now, if you've been following BigBear.ai, you do know, I would assume that you overall get the whole picture from the investor sentiment perspective and overall exactly how much BigBear.ai is. I would say the best term for it would be a wild card because, as you do know, we've had big misses in quarterly reports. We've had decent quarterly reports where the market did react positively, the stock did react positively, and overall, there's been lots of frustration from many investors, and the overall sentiment is there's lots of people that are starting to lose patience with the stock. Now, the question is, this earnings report being moved up from August 10th to July 30th, the question that I want to ask you is if this is actually bullish, because funny enough, if I recall, I actually think it was Q2 of fiscal year 2025. And again, do correct me if I'm wrong, but the vice versa happened where the original planned date for their earnings call was pushed back even further than anticipated, and there was negative news, and it was a negative earnings report, and the stock did react negatively as well. Now, it's funny to see it happen on the flip side, and now people are getting very bullish, are getting more optimistic with the fact that they pushed the earnings up to a sooner date. So today, what I want to do is explain what happened, what history tells us, and why I think that this earnings report could end up being one of the biggest catalysts for BigBear.ai this year. Again, only potentially, because there's no guarantees in the stock market. And if you're enjoying the content, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button and check out the second link for more tools to help with your investing journey to get a $7 7-day trial to prophecy. Now, let's talk about the theory. The first thing that's what I want to be talking about today. There's something that investors sometimes refer to as earnings calendar effect. And the basic idea of this is pretty simple. Historically, companies that report earnings earlier than investors were expecting have on average have tended to have better news than companies that delay their earnings report. And the reasoning is obviously pretty straightforward. It's honestly common sense because if management knows that the quarter went well, they're usually excited to get those numbers out and let the investors see the financial results. But on the flip side, if things didn't go well and if they didn't go according to plan, companies wait until the last minute or to a later time period to report their earnings. Now, I want to have some caution and be careful because I don't want to overstate this, that even though that they push the earnings up, this is not a guarantee in any way that we are going to get a aced quarterly, a hyper bullish reaction to a excellent quarterly report. There's no guarantees, so I just want to make that very clear because there's no black and white set rule that that's the case. And it's certainly not proof that BigBear.ai is about to report the best quarterly the company has ever seen. It's just an observation, and it's something that many investors have observed over many years, that whenever something like this happens, this is typically the result. That's all I'm trying to get at. Quick reminder before we continue, if you're enjoying the content and want to connect with the community, check out the first link below for the free InvestQ community. And if you want access to advanced stock research and tools, the second link is a Prophecy 7-day trial for just $7. And last, if you want daily market updates and behind the scenes content, follow me on Instagram using the third link in the description. Now, let's get back to the video. Now, I also want to go over a potential scenario that I don't want to necessarily rain on y'all's parade, but this could be also what happened, is that it may appear that BigBear.ai management didn't necessarily move earnings forward. That may not be what happened. Instead, what could have happened is that many third-party financial websites were making educated guesses based on historical reporting patterns, and those estimates ending up landing somewhere early in August. But once BigBear.ai officially announced July 30th through their investor relations page, every website updated to the official date. So again, I'm not saying anything's guaranteed. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying there is a possibility that what may have happened is that management wasn't necessarily saying, let's surprise everyone and report early. Instead, it may simply be that investors were looking at estimated dates instead of the company's official schedule. And I want that to be clear because that is an important distinction, because I always want to make sure we're separating facts from speculation. But even though that may be the case, I still think there are several reasons investors have been growing quite optimistic around BigBear.ai stock. Because first off, we got to start off with the recent news flow. Over the past several weeks, when you just look at their investor relations tab, you're going to be seeing here that there was news that came out. Investor relation. Oh, I could have just click press releases. 1 second. So yeah, so first off, one of the biggest announcements that came out was regarding the generative AI platform for the Department of Defense. And the company is continuing to evolve beyond the Ask Sage branding and is expanding secure AI capabilities designed for highly classified governments. And considering government AI spending continues increasing, that's definitely something worth paying attention to. And overall, I just want to say it is nice to see more press releases come out for BigBear.ai, because one of the complaints that I hear in many online investor communities is they feel like they're quiet. And even though there's not been a major catalyst, something along the lines of a $100 million contract from the government or something like that, it's still nice to see that they're putting out some press releases and trying to communicate with their investors. And another positive development I want to talk about is regarding Pangiam, because as many of you know, BigBear.ai did acquire Pangiam. And one of the biggest pieces of news that was recently released on their press release tab in the investor relations tab is their airport screening technology received official approval in the Netherlands. It's talking about this report right here with the BigBear.ai Pangiam threat detection received Dutch national approval for airport security screening. And it's another example of the company continuing to execute outside of just government defense contracts. And don't forget, we do have the backlog, as it's at a record of $281.9 million. Don't forget about that. And that's a significant amount of future contracted work. And of course, I want to make it very clear that backlog isn't necessarily the same as, it's not the same as realized revenue. It's not revenue that's generated right now, because revenue is recognized over time as projects are completed. So that $281.9 million, just remember that's unrealized revenue. And as they do more work and complete their tasks, and that's when the revenue will start to generate for the company. But having a healthy backlog does provide investors with more confidence that the company has business lined up moving forward. So now what I want to talk about is what I personally will be watching with earnings. When they do arrive on July 30th, next week, I'm going to be looking at revenue, obviously. Want to see the revenue trends if it's increasing. I want to see if they hit that mark to get, I think they said it's supposed to be somewhere between 35 and 37 million, but I would like to see them get more than $37 million for their Q2 report. So let me see here. No, not for the year. Not for the year. For Q2, it's expected to be approximately 35.54 million. Me personally, I want to see it above 37 million, as that will be perceived pretty positively from investors. And obviously, I'm going to be seeing, I want to be able to see also if guidance, if forward-looking guidance is still positive, because again, if you do remember, they did reaffirm their fiscal year of 2026 revenue to be $135 and $165 million. So I would like to see that forward guidance is still positive. They address this in a confident manner, saying that we're still on track to hit these revenue goals, and they don't do something like where we have to reevaluate and they have to reassess their forward guidance to where they have to reduce the total amount of revenue that they will generate for fiscal year 2026. And I'll also be looking for updates for anything regarding government contracts, because we know BigBear.ai has continued building relationships throughout the defense and national security space. And if management is able to discuss any additional information regarding contract momentum or any new opportunities they have in their pipeline, I think investors will remain positive, and it will help the more frustrated shareholders be able to hold, and it will just give a little bit more confidence, an overall confident outlook among investors' sentiment. So that's what I got today for BigBear.ai. Let me know exactly what it is you think about Big Bear. How do you personally think that the earnings report is going to go? And what is it that you want to see in future upcoming videos? So with that being said, guys, stay safe, keep making good decisions with your long-term portfolios, and I'll see you on the next video.